He thought she was just a quiet old woman who couldn't afford transport. Every morning he stopped and told him, "Come in, no pay today." But one morning she wasn't at the usual spot, and what happened next would change his life forever. Who was this woman, and what secret had she been hiding all along? This is the powerful true-to-life story of Caleb, a struggling tricycle rider in Imo State, and the elderly woman everyone ignored. Once upon a time in the busy and dusty streets of Owari, they lived a young man named Caleb. He was just 24 years old, but carried the weight of life like someone twice his age. Every day, morning before the crowd, he was already awake, sweeping the front of the compound, warming water, and checking the engine of his old tricycle. The tricycle was his life. It was old. The yellow paint had peeled off in many places. The seat was stone, the steering made funny sounds, and the engine, it coughed and rattled like an old man with asthma. But it moved, and that was enough. He wears his black cap tightly, wore his old blue jeans, and walked like a soldier going to war. His younger sister Favor was still asleep on the mat inside their small one-room apartment. The ceiling was cracked, the walls were stained with old rainwater. No fan, no TV, just a mattress, a charcoal stove, and dreams. Caleb didn't complain. He couldn't. Life had taught him that crying doesn't cook food, so he walked every single day where the TV source had no fun. Whoa. Do you have my TVs? Even when he had malaria and typhoid, she drove. Even when customers insulted him, he smiled. At exactly 5 a.m., she started the gay. It coughed 4 times before the engine came alive. "Thank you, Jesus," he whispered, pressing the throttle. He headed to Douglas Junction, his regular starting point. People were already waiting. Some were rushing to the market, some to offices, others just wandering about. He stopped, picked up her first passengers, and zoomed off. Business was moving. She dropped people, picked others, collected money, gave change. Life was hard and tough, but it was moving. But then something strange happened. It was around 8 a.m. when he returned to Douglas Junction. As he slowed down, his eyes caught a figure under the old avocado tree near the junction. An old woman. She looked tired. Her top was big and dusty, her skirt tricked faded. One of his sandals was torn, and she was carrying a small nylon bag, the kind used to carry tomatoes. Her hands trembled slightly, and her eyes were sunken, like someone who hadn't eaten in days. Caleb slowed down and packed his tricycle beside the road. People were passing her like she didn't exist. Some even looked at her with disgust. One man hissed and said, "Nah, so them just they stand for road the way. To make person pity them, go and beg now." But the old woman didn't say a word. She just stood there, quietly. Caleb looked at her again. Something about her felt different. She wasn't begging. She wasn't stretching his hand. He just stood quietly. He opened her mouth and gently called Mama. "Where you the go?" The old woman looked at him, then looked away like she didn't want to cause trouble. The 2 men already in the tricycle were holding bags of tomatoes and onions. One of them frowned. "I bid no carry beggars. Join us, so if it be mad woman." But Caleb ignored them. He turned to the old woman and said, "Enter. No pay." She looked at her in shock. "You sure?" "Yes, Mama. Enter before another person take the space." She nodded slowly and climbed in, sitting at the far corner. The 2 men hissed but said nothing else. Caleb started the engine again and drove off. As he drove, he looked at the old woman through his mirror. He held his bag tightly and looked out like someone looking at the world for the last time. When they got to a wait, he stopped and turned to him. "Mama, we don't reach." She nodded. "Thank you, my son," she said softly. "No problem," he smiled. She got down slowly and walked away. That day, Caleb didn't think much of it. Just another poor woman, just another act of kindness. After all, what was 200 naira compared to a human being's dignity? But the next morning, she was there again. Same spots, same nylon bag, same tired eyes. He picked her up again, no questions asked. Day after day, he kept showing up. She picked her up again and again, no questions asked. Day after day, he kept showing up. She picked her up again and again, no questions asked. Passengers complained, some mocked him. One tricycle driver told him, "You don't turn charity home, Abi." He laughed and replied, "One day someone may carry me for free too." They laughed at him. Some called him foolish, some called him soft-hearted, but he didn't stop. He gave him a name, Mama P. She never said much. We just said thank you and walked home, away every time she reached her stop. But what he didn't know was that this old woman wasn't who everyone thought she was. There was something deeper behind her silence, something strange behind those eyes, and very soon everything would change. Caleb was not sure why she continued to carry the old woman every day. Maybe it was because of the way he looked at him, not with pity, but with pride, with quiet respect. She never begged him. She never begged anyone. She just waited at the same spot every single morning, wearing the same feathered shirt and holding the same yellow nylon bag. He had carried him for 11 days, 11 mornings of enter, no pay. And each time the old Hemley woman would simply nod, step into the tricycle slowly and say one word, "Thank you." That was all. But on the 15th morning, something different happened. Arrived at the Douglas Camp Junction that day, he saw her already standing in the car's dead houses 10 feet. When Bird gave them all to the camp and down, they called up the 4th place. But on the 15th morning, something different happened. As he arrived at the Douglas Camp Junction that day, he saw her already standing under the mango tree. But this time, she wasn't alone. 2 girls standing in front of her, laughing and harassing her, trying to snatch her yellow bag from her. As she struggled, one of the girls said, mocking her, "Who be this old woman? Remove everything where they valuable for inside, that your nylon or you go see, you go use leg waka today." One of them said, "Why?" Both of them laughed. "Give us that bag," one of them shouted. The other laughed. "She no even get shape. Still they wait like a big woman." Mama Pay didn't say a word. She just looked at the ground. Caleb stopped that and shouted, "Turn up your life later." "Hey, leave her alone." The girls turned surprised. "What he concern you?" one of them asked. He came down from the tricycle holding his key tightly. "I said, leave her." They hissed and walked away. Mama P didn't even look up. She just stood still like a statue. Caleb walked up to her and touched his arm gently. "Mama, don't mind them. You want to go ba?" She nodded. "Yes, my son." He smiled. "Let's go." As they rode through town, something sat quietly in Caleb's chest. A question she hadn't asked before. Who was this woman? Why was she always quiet? Why does she never beg? Why does she never miss a day? She didn't look mad. She didn't talk like someone with mental problems. Her voice was slow but clear. Her eyes didn't shake, like the other beggars on Tad. She wasn't like the other beggars on the street. Something about her was different. And before he got down, Caleb turned and asked, "Mama, where do you go every day?" She paused for a while and then said softly, "A bee. To watch." "Watch?" he asked. She nodded. "Yes, just to sit and watch." He didn't understand, but he didn't ask again. That afternoon after work he visited Papa Chiboy, an elderly man who sold old newspapers not far from the junction. As they chatted, Caleb mentioned the old woman. "You mean that quiet one? That always wait under mango tree?" Papa Chiboy nodded. Papa Chiboy dropped his newspaper slowly and looked at Caleb. He said, "What? That woman is strange. She's been standing under that tree for months now, before you even started carrying her." "Months?" Caleb asked, surprised. He nodded. "Sometimes she just disappears for a weeks and days, then comes back. Some say he's a mad woman. Others say she's a prophetess." "A prophetess?" Caleb blinked. "Yes," Papa Chiboy said, till raising his newspaper. "What?" One man swore that after he gave her water, his sick child started walking. Another one said that her shop began selling after giving her food. Caleb looked away confused, but he never says anything to me. He just sits quietly. "Maybe you already chosen, my dear," Mango said, staring hard at her. Caleb laughed awkwardly. "Papa, this why you are talking like fume." Papa Chiboy shook his head. "My son, be careful. Not everyone walking on the street is ordinary. Sometimes the poor woman you are feeding could be testing your heart." That night, as Caleb lay on his bed, The words repeated in her head. The poor woman you are feeding could be testing your heart. She turned on her side and looked at to his younger sister fast asleep beside him. He thought about their life, how hard it had been. No parents, no help, just struggles and survival. And yet here he was, still, finding space in his heart for someone who had nothing. Maybe Papa Chiboy was right. Maybe life itself was a test. And maybe, just maybe, Papa Chiboy wasn't who he thought she was. The next morning, he woke up earlier than usual. He felt nervous, like something strange was coming. He just couldn't explain it, but he felt it in her body. By 4:30 a.m. he reached Cole Douglas Junction. She was there waiting as always, but today as she stepped into the quay she looked at him and said something new. Caleb. He froze. He had never told her name. Mama, how do you know my name? She smiled. I hear things. He swallowed. What kind of things? She didn't answer. The other passengers climbed in and Caleb started, but his hands shook on the steering. Who is this woman? How did she know my name? What did she mean by I hear things? When they got to the usual spot, she stepped down slowly and looked at him with eyes that were no longer tired but calm and sharp. Look what you want to do. Let me take your father, she said as always. But this time she added, very soon you will understand. Then she turned and walked. Caleb sat still for a moment, his hand on the key and her heart pounding. This was the first day he felt it, not just kindness or worry, but fear. Something was coming. The sky was still dark when Caleb woke up the next morning. There was no rain, but the air felt heavy, like something was about to fall. He sat on the edge of his bedstand, listening to the silence. Even the roosters hadn't started crowing. He stood up quietly, not wanting to wake her younger sister. He had an exam that day. He boiled water, warmed the leftover beans from the night before, and dressed in his usual faded blue jeans and red scarf. Her body moved like a machine, but her heart was far away. It had been 4 weeks since he first picked up Papa Chiboy. Every day without fail, she was always there, waiting. Same time, same place, same quiet face. But something about yesterday had unsettled him. The way she said her name, the way she looked at him, the way she whispered, very soon you will understand. It was like he knew something he didn't expect. Caleb shook the thoughts away and stepped outside. He started his tricycle. It made a loud coughing sound as usual, but it came alive. He whispered a short prayer. God, please go with me today. He started the enkay and drove towards Douglas Junction. It was just a little past 6:45 a.m. when he arrived, but she wasn't there. He blinked. No old woman under the mango tree. Maybe he was late. She waited till 8:00 a.m. Still, there was no sign of her. He drove a few rounds, picked up passengers, and then returned. Still nothing. His chest felt tight, but he tried to smile. Maybe she's sick, he said to himself. But by noon, his worry had turned to fear. He dropped off her last passenger and dropped back at the mango tree. He came down and looked around. Excuse me. He called out to the woman roasting corn nearby. Did you see the old woman that always stands here? The quiet one? The woman looked up. That one? No, I haven't seen her since yesterday. Caleb's heart skipped. He crossed the road and asked the newspaper seller. Did you see that old woman that usually stays under this tree every morning? The man looked confused. Which one? The one with small yellow nylon? I always carry her in my kek every day. Oh, okay, I know her, but I've not seen her since today. Caleb climbed back into a kek and sat for a while. His head was from spinning and his hands were cold. Something has happened that evening. He didn't return home immediately. He drove to Wait the Market where she always dropped her off. He packed his kek and walked around. Excuse me, she asked his bean seller. Do you know an old woman who comes here often? Wears an old shirt black, always carrying a small yellow lag bag. The woman shook her head. No idea. She asked 5 more people. Nobody knew her. He stopped at the front of a church building and sat on one of the steps. His legs were weak. His chest felt heavy, like stone. And slowly his eyes began to fill with tears. She's not a ghost. So, where is she? That night, Caleb couldn't sleep. He couldn't eat. He sat in the dark room holding the scarf he once gave her during the rain. It still had a smell, a mixture of dust, soap, and something she couldn't describe. His younger sister asked him, "Brother, are you okay?" He forced a smile. "Yes, I'm just tired." But in his heart, he was scared. 2 days later, and still no sign of Mama, he drove with eyes on the road and eyes on the corner of his mirror, hoping and praying she would appear. But the mango tree remained empty. No old woman, no pack, nylon bag, and no thank you. He told herself that maybe he had traveled, maybe he had family somewhere, but her heart refused to believe it. That evening, something strange happened. As he parked near his compound, a man from the next building called out, "Caleb, you they carry one old woman every morning?" "Abi." He turned quickly. "Oh, yes. Ooh, do you know her?" The man shrugged. "And no, I just, they see, am sometimes. Be careful, my brother. You say this get plenty strange people, some spirits in disguise." Caleb forced a smile and walked away, but those words stayed in his head all night. In the book. Third day, he sat in it again, waiting and watching. The tree stood still, but the bench in front of it where the woman usually sat after coming down was also empty. That afternoon, he sat at the mango tree for 1 full hour. His keke was off, his hands were crossed confused, and his face stared into the street like someone waiting for a goose. People walked past and nobody noticed him, but deep down he was breaking. Where are you, Mama G? Was she dead? Was she hurt? Did someone take her? Tears filled his eyes. Then something happened. A small girl wearing a school uniform came running towards him. "Brother, brother, are you the one that dries this yellow cake?" He shouted. "Yes, I'm the one," Caleb responded quickly. The girl stretched out a white envelope. "A woman said I should give you this. She said you will understand." His hands trembled. "Which woman? Where is she?" The girl pointed behind him. "She was there just now. I turned and he was gone." He looked, but the road was empty. He looked back at the envelope. It had no name or logo, just a plain white paper. He slowly opened it, and inside was a white paper. 7 words only. "Come to Elvis Hotel, room 221, 4:00 p.m. Caleb stared at the words room 221, Elvis Hotel. That was one of the biggest hotels in Ori. His legs shook. He looked around. No one else seemed to notice him. He folded the paper, held it against his chest and whispered, "Mama G, what's this?" Caleb sat quietly inside his keke, staring at the white pepper in his hand. His heart was beating fast. The sun was hot, but her body felt cold. He read the notes again and again. Why Elvis Hotel? Mouth felt dry. He looked down at the road again, hoping to see the girl who gave him the envelope. All he wanted was hope. He saw, "Kill me with clothes to his head, Elvis Hotel." He looked down at the road again, hoping to see the girl who gave him the envelope, but she was gone. He looked at his wristwatch, and he realized that she had exactly 3 hours and 17 minutes. He didn't know what to do. Should he go? What if it was a trap? What if something bad would happen? He placed the key back in the key and slowly drove home. When he got to her compound, he didn't even enter his room. He sat outside a compound on a bench and was deep in thoughts. "Caleb, you not go hustle today?" Papa Gata asked when he came outside carrying a bowl of water. Caleb forced a smile. "I'm resting, small papa." Papa Gata sat down beside him and looked at the paper in her hand. "What's that?" Caleb quickly folded it. "Nothing, just paper." But the woman was sharp. "Is this letter from police or customer complaint?" Caleb laughed weakly. "No, nothing like that." The man stood up. "Whatever it is, pray first. No, let fear catch you." Then he walked back inside. Caleb was alone again. He slowly opened the pepper once more. By 3:15, he stood in front of his wooden wardrobe, picked out his cleanest clothes, a long black trouser and a light green top. He took his time to brush his hair and wipe dust from his sandals. His keke was too dirty for where he was going, so she decided to take a tricycle instead. At 4:35, he locked the door of his one bedroom and whispered a prayer. God, please go with me. He walked down the street and waved down a passing tricycle. Elvis Hotel, he said softly. The driver turned back quickly. What are you going there to do? That hotel is not for poor people. He smiled nervously. I get something to collect. Just carry me. By 15 minutes, the gate of Elvis Hotel came into view. The building was tall and shiny white. The glass windows reflected the sun. The entrance had white ties, golden doors, and two strong-looking security guards. Good afternoon, one of the guards said. How may we help you? Caleb swallowed his, raised the paper, and handed it over. The guard opened it, read it, and looked up at her with surprise. You're the one? He nodded slowly. Yes, sir. The man signaled another guard standing by the side. Take him inside. A tall man wearing a black suit appeared from behind the glass doors. He looked rich and serious. Follow me, sir, he said. Caleb followed him. The air inside the hotel smelled like flour and rich people. The floor was white, like ice. Music played softly from somewhere she couldn't see. His heart was beating louder than her footsteps. He looked around. Rich people, clean uniforms, and big bags. He felt like he didn't belong, but he kept walking. They reached an elevator. He had never entered one before. It opened silently, and they stepped inside. Lippy. Room 224, the man said. He pressed the button. The lift moved. Caleb almost lost his balance. Jesus, she whispered. The man smiled slightly. When the elevator stopped, the doors opened quietly. Just straight down the hall, the man said, pointing to a long corridor with red carpet. Caleb walked slowly. His palms were sweating. His legs felt weak, and his eyes scanned every door. Finally, room 224. He stopped, looked back, and the man was gone. He was standing alone in the hallway. His hand reached for the handle. He paused, then knocked. Knock, knock. He knocked again. A voice answered, calm and familiar. Come in. He pushed the door slowly, and then he froze. His mouth opened wide. Sitting in a clean white shirt and brown trousers, inside a luxury hotel room was Mama G. But sitting in a luxury hotel room was Mama G. She stands in the hallway. Her hair was mistily caught. His face was smooth and fresh. He was sitting in a fine leather chair beside a round table. Her small black nylon was nowhere inside. Way, Caleb, he said gently. His voice cracked. Great. Mama G. She nodded. Yes, my son. He stepped in slowly, still unsure if he was dreaming. The door closed behind him. He looked around, the big bed, the soft light, the clean carpet, and the glass cups. What is this place? He asked. She smiled. Sit down. I will explain. He sat slowly on the edge of a chair. Is this really you? He whispered. Yes, but I'm not who you think I am. Caleb's heart was now beating faster than ever. He gripped his skin tightly. Then who are you? She leaned forward, looked into his eyes, and said the words that would change her life forever. He followed his brew in confusion. Time for what? Then for the first time, Chief Ngozi's voice changed, and it became more serious. Caleb, I need to tell you something that I haven't told anyone in years. He leaned in, his heart pounding. She took a deep breath and said, During my early years, I was kidnapped by people I once trusted. They took my money, tried to destroy my life, and left me for dead. I survived, but I stopped trusting people. Even after I rebuked my life, I hid. I kept my face away from cameras. I traveled secretly. I hired people to pretend on my behalf. Only a few knew who I really was. Caleb placed his hand on her chest. Then last year, I decided to do something strange. I wanted to walk the streets again, not as a Bologani, but as a beggar. I wanted to see if kindness still existed. She paused. And the truth is, he smiled, it does, because I found you. Caleb didn't know when the tears began to roll. He wiped his eyes with the back of her hand, still trying to believe it all. Ma, I don't even have anything. I live in a room that leaks when it rains. I have only one sister. I drive kike every day. What you didn't know was that two of my enemies were watching me that day. They had been trying to find me again. They followed me once and almost discovered who I was. You mean you were in danger that day? She nodded. That day your boldness confused them. When you shouted at the girls, they backed away. They thought you were one of my bodyguards in disguise. Caleb blinked. I was just trying to defend you, and in doing so, you saved me. Now it's my turn. She stood up from his seat. He stood up too slowly, as if still unsure of what he was seeing. She walked gently towards her and said, Follow me. I have something else to show you. The real gift. He opened his mouth, but no words came out. Just follow me, he said again softly. And without saying more, he turned, walked to the door, and opened it. Two men in suits were waiting outside. A black GLK was parked outside the hotel, engine already running. Chief Nosy turned back, and with a smile on his face, he asked her, Are you ready? Caleb took a deep breath and nodded slowly. But little did he know that the next thing he would see would leave him speechless. Chief Ngozi walked calmly towards the GLK. One of the bodyguards opened the door for her. She turned back and smiled. I'm being. Come in, Caleb. He walked slowly, still trying to understand what was happening. As he stepped into the car, he sat beside her, holding his trouser tight with both hands. The leather seat hugged his body gently. It smelled of wealth. Where were we going, Ma? She asked quietly. To show you the second pass of your reward, he said with a calm voice. The GOK moved. Chelib looked out of the window as they drove through Overy. They passed his street, his small compound with the rusted gate. He saw it flashed by like a memory. He bit her lip and looked down. He was leaving that life behind. But for what? After about 30 minutes of smooth driving, they entered a clean part of the city. The roads were fresh. The houses were painted. The street lights stood tall like proud soldiers. Then the cars turned into a large compound. As they entered, Caleb gasped. In front of us stood a tall, beautiful building with glass walls, golden handles on the doors, white marble floors outside, flower gardens neatly trimmed, and a huge glowing signboard. He read the sign out loud. Caleb Transport and Logistics. Speed with hearts. He clapped his hand over her mouth. He turned to Chief Ngozi. Is this a prank? She smiled gently. It swings. No, my son. It is yours. He shook his head, trying to catch her breath. Mine? She nodded. Yes, a real registered transport business in your name. 5 new cares, 3 drivers already employed, uniforms, company office, logo, foil account, customer line, and even a website. Her knees buckled. He sat back in the car. Tears filled her eyes. Chief Ngozi looked out the window at the building. You are no longer just an ordinary keke driver, Caleb. You are a business owner.